Hi, this is Cam Steele. We're in Vancouver, British Columbia. I have two lovely guests with me today, Andrea and Jenny, and they have, on a recent trip, been to Thailand to do some rock climbing and have learned a unique skill called fire twirling. Welcome to the show, girls.
Hi.
So tell me a little bit about what is this fire twirling?
Well, it's something that we saw people doing in Thailand. Specifically, we were there to rock climb for 3 weeks, and some of the local instructors were doing this at night, and we were so enthralled with it that we thought that we'd try to pick it up and learn from them. So we spent a couple of weeks learning.
And
the art.
What is the significance of fire twirling in Thailand? Is there any kind of significance for people there? It's
not something that's indigenous to Thailand. It's something that's sort of been imported with a lot of the tourism there. And in this case, I believe it was New Zealanders that were climbers, and they happened to bring a pair with them, and they had so much fun with it themselves that they started putting fire shows on for themselves and friends. And then it grew into sort of a larger kind of a show that they do at night, and everyone would gather at this little beach called Railay, where they would perform.
Excellent. Now this is really interesting because you're women and playing with fire. So how does that make you feel?
I guess, yeah, we were talking about that, and we were saying that it's kind of like the rock climbing. It's just a bit of a challenge. It's not so much the fire, but something that's a little bit you have to learn, and then you can do it.
Yeah, because this is something that you would see men doing most of the time, and I find it really interesting that women are playing with fire. And so what is it you need? These are the fire sticks here, and fire twirlers. Now, what are they made out of?
Cotton batting wrapped around a wire that you sort of screw on with a pair of pliers, attached onto a chain, and then a loop for your finger. And there you have it.
And what do you dip them in to make them go on fire?
Kerosene.
Kerosene? Now, where do you do these? Where do you twirl your
fire?
Where do you twirl your fire?
Wow, we like to twirl our fire at the beach, because you need open spaces, or with friends at a campfire, or by a lakeside, or even like at a barbecue or something at a party. It's kind of neat.
Is that what you've been doing so far? Are you going to do any shows?
Buskering on the beach for dollars?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because it's something that we kind of do for ourselves and for people that we know, because it's exciting. And if people don't know that you already have never seen you do it before, it sort of raises eyebrows at a barbecue.
Now, what kind of thrill? I'm sure it would. Maybe burn a few eyebrows at the same time, I'd say. What does it do for you personally? Like, I really want you to tell me what it does for you inside, for your feelings, to play with these with fire. To play with fire. I mean, I'm sure it's a challenge, but what does it do on a spiritual level for yourself? Because obviously there's something there if you're really enjoying it that much.
I think with the fire, and like even without the fire, especially at first when you're first learning and you can finally do some tricks with your eyes closed and stuff, it's very, you have to tune everything else out, and it's just you and your fire chains. And when you do it with the fire, it's even more so, because it's the noise of the fire is quite loud. And,
is it?
And once you can tune out the scariness of the fire and just do your tricks, which you've obviously practiced without fire.
Yes, I've been,
it's just a really neat feeling. It's just it's a kind of, you're alone doing it.
Now, what I found with playing with it at home, I've been practicing with the chains, and I mean, there's no fire, but I've hit myself on the head a couple of times.
Did you? It happens, doesn't it?
And I'm going, what happens if these are on fire?
Yeah.
Now, what do you do to prepare yourself, personally and physically, before you start playing with fire?
Well, beforehand, you're kind of anxious, and everyone around you is like, oh my goodness, you're like carrying out the kerosene, and everyone runs for cover, thinking that you're going to somehow like light the whole like can on fire somehow. No, you have to wet down your hair and put a kerchief on it. You want to put some Vaseline or some kind of a mineral oil on your arms. So
it doesn't help just to wear long clothes?
That is good too. There's always the risk of lighting those on fire as well, which could create a larger conflagration. Whereas if it just kind of hits your arm, it flecks off, and hopefully you won't get burned very badly.
It also, when you're wearing the long clothing, it kind of gets in the way. It's kind of finding it's better to wear less.
Right. Now, what was your initial trip to Thailand about? What brought you to Thailand in the first place? I mean, out of all the places to go to, there's Australia, there's New Zealand, like you mentioned, there's Italy. I mean, Thailand is a small place in the corner of the world type of thing. What brought you there, specifically? Is it just the rock climbing, or was it there something else?
Originally, it was a whim. It was my 30th birthday, actually, and Jen goes, "Hey, why don't we go to Thailand?" And I said, "Yeah, let's go." And about a month after that, we happened to go rock climbing with a couple of friends. We had such a hairy experience. It was a very scary climb that day because it started pouring rain halfway up, and so on. It became an obsession of ours, and we wanted to learn how to do it better. We found out that some of the best sport climbing is in Thailand,
is that right,
in the world.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
Wow. Now, as women, how do you feel you were treated in Thailand? I mean, because their culture is quite different, and they treat their women quite differently. Were you treated as Canadians, or were you perceived as being American, or what was going on?
We were
Riley's different.
Amazed at how wonderful our reception was, and not our reception, but just meeting with the people and talking with the locals. And we found they were Thai people were the most friendly people we had known. It was really nice, actually. We always felt safe. And
wow.
It might have just been the area. We were only in the same area for 3 weeks. We were in Bangkok a little bit, and that was very kind of busy and a little bit different. But where we were in Riley was amazing. Yeah.
And what did they think of you girls doing the fire twirling?
They encouraged it.
Really?
They thought, they totally wanted us to learn. In fact, a lot of people that did learn when they were there went up in the fire show at the end. They had a little space for people who were learning to go up, and that's when Andrea first did it with fire in front of a whole crowd of people. They encouraged it.
And how long did it take each of you to learn this technique?
Well, Jenny says I'm more coordinated. It took me about an hour before I could do my first trick, but it took me
an hour. That's it. Wow.
And then once I caught it, once you catch on to the first trick, then it doesn't take very long. After 3 or 4 days, I had it pretty well mastered.
Is that with fire after 3 or 4 days, or
after 3 or 4 days? I tried it with fire.
Oh, with fire.
And then I continued to practice after we returned home from Canada.
Right.
And then we started doing our own fire shows.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, as our confidence grew, and as we felt really comfortable that we could pull off a lot of the different moves.
So who's better at it, would you say?
I'd say Andrea's probably a little bit
really?
better.
I think Jenny's got better finesse, though.
Better finesse. Well, it's an interesting balance then, I guess. Wouldn't it be an interesting balance? And how long did it take you to learn?
It took me a long time.
Really?
It took me, a lot of frustrating time on the beach when we were in Thailand. I never actually got my first trick when we were in Thailand.
Wow.
I had to spend sort of a couple hours down at the beach with Andrea, hitting myself on the head over and over again until I finally
hit myself on the head a couple of times without fire. And I mean, that's a technique. I mean, if you've learned it in an hour, in 3 or 4 days, I mean, I've been practicing at home, spending half an hour every day, just twirling them around outside. In fact, my neighbor come out and I shared the story. And
oh, is that right?
Yeah, and so they're interested in learning. They're curious, and they want to learn how to do it. So I gave one to them, and she kept hitting herself on the leg with it, so she couldn't get it. So it is quite different. And I imagine with fire that they are heavier too. So what do you need? A lot of upper body strength for this? Do you work out?
Good workout for your arms. We're waitresses, so we lift plates, not weights.
Okay. All right. So that explains it. Now the material that you have here, is there not a better material that you can use
Yeah, there is. It's Kevlar, and it would last probably, 3 years, whereas that lasts maybe, I don't know, depends how much you use it, but, a few days.
Does it fly off of here? Because I notice you've got one that's loose here. So what happens when you're doing it?
Well, we
and
just
say one comes like this.
keep them really soaked with kerosene, and we make sure that they're all tucked in and solid before we use them. But
now, can you tell when you're twirling it if one comes untucked?
No, if it comes untucked because it's away from the other part of it, it'll very quickly just catch on fire and burn, and the ashes will fly away.
Wow.
And then you're left with the part that is still tucked in.
And so how long does it take you to make one of these? Because it looks like, there's no particular lock on it.
No,
And
it's really easy.
it's all wired in there, but I mean, it's tight.
Yeah.
So how long does it take?
Yeah. It takes about half an hour to jimmy up a pair, as long as you have all the materials
Really?
right there.
That's it?
Yeah, it's really fast. Yeah,
Wow.
it was neat because when we came home, we sort of pulled the one that I had bought there
Right.
apart, and how does it work? And then we started kind of
wow.
manufacturing our own, and
Wow.
we haven't sold any. It's something that
How much are you going to sell these for if you sell them? How much?
I'd probably say, because it took half an hour of our time to make it and so on, I don't know, $20.
Is there a
perhaps.
demand? Is there a demand for them now? Are you getting people asking if they could buy some from
When
you?
people see us doing it, they're enthralled. They have no trouble approaching us because they're so curious about them, and they want to know, what are they, and where did you learn this? Is this a
Wow.
martial art? Do you do taekwondo? And so in a way, it is kind of its own martial art, because it's kind of an activity where you're very it's almost like meditation, and when you do it with fire, it's almost like being in a trance in a way, because you're so
Interesting.
focused.
Now, I know we're going to go out to the beach after the show, and we're going to do a little thing on the beach, and you're going to get me to play with these. But I wanted to ask you about we talked the other day about sacred geometry and the designs that you make, and when the light's moving. Can you feel any kind of change in your own body energy when you're doing that, with the different designs that happen?
Well, different positions. Your gravity pulls you in different ways,
Okay.
and so you pick different positions or tricks to do depending on the music that you're using and your feeling and the beat of the music, whether it's picking up or whatever.
Right.
And your body definitely moves with it in different ways. You don't really have to try to dance, but you do kind of wind up kind of dancing with it.
Right. What kind of music are you using then when you do this?
we've been using a bit of Madonna and a bit of the Train Spotting CD, just
Right.
some stuff, just some nice, some slow beats. It's really nice with slow music, but the fast stuff's fun too.
So you say you get into a real flow when you're doing it. And what kind of designs, when the light's moving around you, and we'll see this on the beach, when the light's moving around you, what kind of designs are we going to see? Can you anticipate?
It looks like an atom,
An atom?
basically.
Okay.
Basically, some positions look like an atom, or like you're in the middle of two fire orbs, because when it's spinning really fast, it makes almost one solid flow of light. And so you're basically standing in the middle of two orbs that are doing different designs around you.
Wow.
And at different points, it looks like helium. It looks like two electrons are spinning around you, and
Oh, isn't that interesting?
it's beautiful.
And do you feel anything in your energy when the fire is going around you? Like, we all have auras and stuff like that. Do you get a sense of anything like that happening around you?
You have a feeling of being at one. I think sort of it's very elemental, like
Okay,
flesh and
that's-
fire.
yeah.
It's a very elemental, very basic.
Are you
Very
scared?
that's all that you're listening to. You're nervous.
I think you're
But-
scared at first, but when you start to get into the rhythm,
It's got to be wild.
when you
eh?
first light them, it's always scary,
Yeah.
because they're not flowing, they're just hanging, and
Well, it's something that you can't control either. I mean, fire is not a
100%.
controlled element.
yeah,
What signs are both of you, out of curiosity?
Sagittarius.
And you are?
Water, Pisces.
Oh, so you're, no, Sagittarius, is that a fire sign? Do you know?
I think it might be.
I think it's
What do you call it? Whoa. So you've got the third element now.
That's right.
No,
That's
water,
kind
earth,
of
and
neat.
fire,
I never looked
isn't
at it that way.
So do you have any kind of costume that you wear when you're doing this? Anything specific that you two would like to make some kind of show?
Probably something, maybe we were thinking, it looks very nice when a woman does it because of the flow. With the fire, men do it very aggressively, and you kind of flow, and so it's
Not
nice
to say
wear.
that men can't get into the flow.
No, and they can, and they do in their own way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everyone sort of has their own style
Yeah,
of doing it.
of course.
But I think it looks really nice when you wear a sarong.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe a sports bra or something like that, and just sort of very kind of almost like body conscious clothing,
Right.
where you don't have a lot of clothing sticking out.
Wow. Now, have you been? One of you is burned.
Yeah,
Andrea,
I got a burn. You can't really see it very well right now, but
that's
but
what
before it was when it first happened, it came across and slapped like that, and the wire, because it was so hot, it branded me like a cow, and I had this really odd looking little mark that kind of goes like this, like a UFO, and then a little spot in the middle, and so people would comment on it.
Did it hurt?
They were, my God, that's an interesting tattoo. It didn't hurt at the time. I think this is a lot of adrenaline, basically, when you're doing it with fire that you have, and so if you injure yourself while you're doing it, you can't feel it at all. But that night and the next day, it was a little ouchy, and so I just put some mineral oils on it and so on. But I didn't realize at the time that I'd burned myself that badly.
Now, do you need, when you're doing this outside the beach, do you have to get permits for the fire?
We haven't looked into it. We've sort of
We can
done
cut
it
this
for
off.
friends, and we've
Right.
done it around a campfire, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of we don't because we don't do it busking, and we aren't
Right.
doing it for money. We've sort of just done it for friends. and
Especially with
more
all the
private.
fire threat that's out there now, too. It'd be,
Yeah, it would be bad.
So you have to, I guess you really pick out.
Bad to do it in the forest.
Yeah, the forest wouldn't work. The forest would be not a good thing right now.
That's a no-go zone.
You know. Maybe in the rain it would be okay.
Yes.
And now, let me ask you something else about these things. When you are, when you're twirling the fire, can you do it together? Can you actually, because these are fairly long chains. So how close can you get before?
We can get
Quite close.
fairly close.
Is that
And
right?
there is one little move that we do where we go right up next to each other and have them above my head, and Andrea has them beside us. And that's pretty cool to do that. But it's very it's a little bit more scary because it's not just you concentrating
Right.
on the fire. You have to
other
trust
person.
the
So
other.
there's a certain amount of
Fire.
trust that's involved in this too, because you have to.
Absolutely.
It seems like you really have to trust yourself with these.
Yeah,
That's
for
And
right.
you're
sure.
going to get me to do this.
Are you nervous?
I am nervous. Actually, I am. I was actually just commenting at home the other day, and I said, well, you know what? I'm really nervous about this. I love fire. I think it's fascinating, you know, but there's a certain amount of fear
Yes.
that fire holds. And I think that holds for a lot of people. I mean, you know, fire is uncontrollable, you know.
And I think becoming fearless is it may be something that kind of attracts you to it because you're overcoming that fear.
Well, have either of you had a fear of fire at all?
Not really.
No? Have you always been
Never.
fascinated with fire?
Yeah, kind of fascinated, but still had a lot of respect for it,
Okay.
and
Good
didn't
answer.
necessarily
Good
play
answer.
with it.
Good answer.
Yeah.
And now,
Wouldn't recommend
what
it
kind
for
of things
kids.
are you going to get me to do with these? You're gonna
Whatever you feel
just do
comfortable
the-
with.
Yeah? You're not going to...
We don't recommend learning new tricks while they're on fire.
Yeah.
We practice and practice something until we can do it with our eyes closed, and at that point we feel confident that we can do it.
Are you going to take this across Canada?
Well, that would be fun. We haven't talked about any road trips
So-
yet.
Yeah.
You never know, though.
Because I
Yeah.
think it would be a fascinating show to travel with. Is there anybody else in Canada doing this?
Not
I mean,
that
there's
we
fire
know of.
sticks where I've seen somebody hold a long rod and then both ends are lit up and they just
That's
twirl
true.
it like a baton.
Yeah.
But this is a little different. These are chains, and so
I've never seen it before.
We haven't seen it before, but I wouldn't say, I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, this show is in Seattle, or this show is in Seattle. So, are you going to come down to Seattle and play?
We'd love to. If someone were interested in having us come to their event or something like that, and would be interested in having that kind of a display. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
We'd really enjoy that.
Yeah. And so, what do you two do now? You're doing the fire twirling, but what do you do for a living right now?
We're both waitresses.
Yeah.
Really?
And besides that, we mountain climb, do a little bit of sailing.
Really?
Yeah, we sort of focus on our extracurricular activities.
Wow. So you're really adventurous women.
Trying to be.
So rock climbing. Do you climb any rocks around here?
Yes.
Squamish is pretty good for
Is
climbing.
that the one, the Squamish Chief?
Yeah, Squamish Chief.
Have you climbed that one?
We did. That was our first climb. But that was just the easier climb.
We did Apron and Deidre.
So
wow.
Yeah. So it's not very steep. But
You could take these things up with you.
You know
Stand
what?
on the edge of the mountain.
We've thought about it.
Really?
It would be amazing
That would be kind of neat to do that.
even just to do a hike, not necessarily a climb, because you don't really want a big thing of kerosene on your back. But
How heavy are these when you have them lit?
About twice as heavy because the
How much do
kerosene.
you think they weigh right now?
Right now, I would say about
A pound?
a quarter of a pound
Quarter of
each.
a pound each? And when they're wet and on fire?
About half a pound
Is
each.
that right? And you're twirling these things in each hand. Now, do you use your wrists to twirl them, or do you use your arms?
we put them around our middle fingers, and we mostly use our wrists. And you can actually feel your tendons. Your tendons get quite worked here from your middle finger up, and your shoulders too, depending what tricks you're doing.
Do you do any kind of meditation before you get on? Before you
It's
start?
funny because these are kind of like meditation in themselves. Like we would definitely play with them before we lit them on fire,
Well,
and that's our, I guess our meditation.
that's great.
Before I do them, I always like to dip them in the kerosene, then close my eyes and do it so that I can become accustomed to the weight, because it is twice as heavy before I light them on fire.
But isn't that a
That's why
little
some
dangerous though?
nervousness.
Because if you've got them just wet and you're twirling them, you could get splash off from the kerosene onto your clothes.
Yes,
You do
kerosene
end up
goes
with
everywhere.
kerosene all over you.
So if you, and then after you light them, how do you prevent yourself
I
from
guess
catching
if
on fire if you've twirled them without being on fire and them being wet? You know what I mean?
Good question. It's not as combustible as other fuels. It's not like gasoline. Thank heavens.
Yeah, if you had kerosene on your arm and it did light, it would just light and go out. That's why we keep dipping them so that the cotton doesn't burn.
And how do you put them out when you're done?
We spin them really, really fast.
Really, really fast?
And then they mostly go out, and there's just a sort of coal looking, and that's kind of fun to do, play with that too. And then just lie them down in the sand or on the ground.
That's great.
Put them out.
Well, I'm looking forward to going to the beach.
Yes, it's going to be fun teaching you.
Now, do I have to wear anything? Like anything that...
I would recommend some kind of glasses, some kind of protective glasses. We like those kind of little clubby glasses, those yellow ones that people wear a lot now.
Oh, yeah.
Wear a pair of those just to protect your eyes,
I wear
because you
normal
never know.
Sunglasses, whatever,
Sure.
The sunlight covers your eyes.
Okay. And what about clothing? Optional or?
Optional.
Sure.
Wear something
I
you
don't
don't
think
mind
that-
gets dirty, because you get, when you get sort of black marks on
Right. Right. So shorts and a t-shirt, basically.
Yeah.
would be it.
That should be fine.
Even old jeans and a t-shirt would be good too.
Yeah, I think shorts.
Okay.
I don't jeans. Yeah. So this is great. Well, thanks for
Good.
coming out.
Okay.
And
Thank you for having us.
we're
It'll be fun.
going to make our way to the beach,
Okay.
and we'll play it from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
This is
Nice
Cam
meeting
Steele, and we are going to be going to the beach to play with fire. Thank you.